Stop right there. Before you put that food in your refrigerator, you need to watch this video because what I'm about to reveal might completely change the way you store your groceries. Right now, at this very moment, you probably have foods sitting in your fridge that are slowly losing their nutritional value, developing strange textures, and even potentially harming your health. And the worst part? You've been told your entire life that you're doing the right thing. The food industry doesn't want you to know this, but I'm going to expose the truth about 5 common foods that should absolutely never see the inside of your refrigerator. If you care about your health, your wallet, and getting the most out of the food you buy, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because this information is too important to miss. Trust me, by the end of this video, you'll be rushing to your kitchen to rescue some innocent foods from their cold prison. Let's start with something that's probably sitting in your refrigerator's vegetable drawer right now. Tomatoes. Yes, those beautiful red orbs that you carefully select at the grocery store and immediately condemn to a life of cold misery. Here's what's happening that you can't see. When you refrigerate tomatoes, you're literally killing their flavor compounds at a molecular level. Scientists have discovered that temperatures below 54 degrees Fahrenheit halt the production of enzymes responsible for that incredible, sun-ripened tomato taste we all crave. But it gets worse. The cold doesn't just stop flavor development, it actively destroys the volatile compounds that have already formed. That mealy, flavorless, disappointingly bland tomato you bit into last week, that's not the tomato's fault. That's yours for putting it in the fridge. The cell walls inside the tomato start to break down when exposed to cold temperatures, which is why refrigerated tomatoes develop that weird, grainy texture that feels like you're eating wet sand. And here's the kicker that should really concern you. Studies have shown that tomatoes stored at room temperature maintain significantly higher levels of lycopene, the powerful antioxidant that fights cancer and promotes heart health. So not only are you sacrificing taste and texture, you're literally throwing away the health benefits that made you want to eat tomatoes in the first place. If you're finding this information valuable, go ahead and smash that like button so more people can discover these crucial food storage secrets. Your tomatoes should live on your counter, away from direct sunlight, stem side up to prevent moisture loss, where they'll continue ripening and developing their full flavor potential. Only refrigerate them if they're already overripe and you need to buy yourself an extra day or two, but understand you're making a compromise. Now let's talk about potatoes, and this one is particularly shocking because it involves a chemical change that could be affecting your health in ways you never imagined. When you store potatoes in the refrigerator, the cold temperature converts the potato starch into sugar at an accelerated rate. You might think, okay, sweeter potatoes. What's the problem? Here's the problem. When you cook those sugar-laden potatoes at high temperatures, which you inevitably will, because who's eating raw potatoes, those sugars react with an amino acid called asparagine to form acrylamide, a chemical that has been classified as a probable human carcinogen by the International Agency for Research on Cancer. Let that sink in for a moment. Your innocent decision to store potatoes in the fridge could be creating cancer-causing compounds in your food. But the potato nightmare doesn't end there. The cold, humid environment of your refrigerator creates the perfect conditions for potatoes to develop dark spots and an unpleasant, overly sweet taste that ruins whatever dish you're trying to make. The starch conversion also affects the texture, making your fries less crispy, your mashed potatoes gluey, and your roasted potatoes disappointingly soft instead of delightfully fluffy on the inside with that perfect golden crust on the outside. Professional chefs have known this forever, which is why restaurants store their potatoes in cool, dark, dry places, never in refrigeration. Your potatoes need to breathe, they need air circulation, and they need to be kept away from onions because onions release gases that accelerate potato spoilage. A paper bag in a pantry or cabinet away from heat sources is the ideal home for your potatoes, where they can maintain their starch content, their texture, and most importantly, they won't develop those potentially harmful compounds when you cook them. If you're still watching, you're clearly someone who cares about doing things right, so make sure you stay until the end because food number 5 is going to absolutely blow your mind. Here's something that's going to sound completely counterintuitive. Bread does not belong in the refrigerator, and I can already hear people protesting because they've been told refrigeration prevents mold. Yes, cold temperatures slow mold growth. But what they don't tell you is that refrigeration actually makes your bread go stale up to 6 times faster than keeping it at room temperature. The science behind this is fascinating and frustrating at the same time. Bread staling is a process called retrogradation, where the starch molecules in bread crystallize, and this process happens most rapidly at temperatures just above freezing, exactly where your refrigerator operates. When you refrigerate bread, you're speeding up the molecular changes that make bread tough, dry, and completely unappealing. The moisture inside the bread migrates from the starch to the air, but because it's trapped in a refrigerator bag or container, that moisture has nowhere to go, creating a weird, leathery texture that's neither fresh nor properly preserved. And here's what really frustrates me. People refrigerate bread thinking they're extending its life, when in reality, they're just creating a slow-motion disaster. That sandwich you made with refrigerated bread tastes flat and lifeless compared to one made with properly stored bread. And you've probably just accepted that as normal without realizing you're the one causing the problem. The best way to store bread is in a bread box or paper bag at room temperature if you'll eat it within 3 to 4 days. If you need longer storage, here's the secret that bakeries don't want you to know. Freeze it. Freezing bread stops the staling process completely because the temperature is so low that molecular movement essentially halts. You can freeze bread for up to 3 months, and when you thaw it or toast it directly from frozen, it tastes remarkably close to fresh. But whatever you do, keep your bread out of that refrigerator purgatory where it's not quite fresh and not quite preserved, just disappointingly mediocre. Coffee lovers, this one's for you, and you're not going to like it. If you're storing your coffee beans or ground coffee in the refrigerator or freezer, you're committing a crime against coffee. And more importantly, you're drinking a significantly inferior product every single morning. Coffee is hygroscopic, which means it absorbs moisture and odors from its environment like a sponge. Your refrigerator is full of moisture and a symphony of different food smells, from that leftover lasagna to the onions in the crisper drawer, and your coffee is soaking all of it up. Every time you open that container of coffee, condensation forms on the beans or grounds as the warm air hits the cold coffee, introducing moisture that breaks down the compounds that give coffee its complex flavor profile. But here's where it gets really interesting. Coffee's flavor comes from volatile oils and aromatic compounds that are incredibly fragile. These compounds start degrading the moment coffee is roasted, and exposure to cold, moisture, light, and air accelerates this degradation exponentially. When you refrigerate coffee, you're essentially putting those precious flavor compounds on a fast track to destruction. The cold causes these volatile oils to become less volatile, meaning they don't release their aromas and flavors as readily when you brew your coffee. That flat, dull, barely tastes like coffee cup you've been drinking. That's refrigerator damage, not bad coffee. Professional coffee roasters store their beans in airtight containers at room temperature in a dark place, and they never ever refrigerate. The ideal storage temperature for coffee is between 68 and 77 degrees Fahrenheit, basically comfortable room temperature. If you buy whole beans, which you absolutely should because ground coffee loses flavor much faster, store them in an opaque, airtight container away from heat and light. Buy only what you'll use within 2 weeks for optimal flavor. If someone gave you a huge bag and you can't use it that quickly, you can freeze portions in airtight containers for longer-term storage, but never refrigerate. And here's your mid-video call to action. If this information is changing the way you think about food storage, drop a comment below telling me which food surprised you the most, and share this video with someone who needs to rescue their coffee from the fridge right now. Finally, we've arrived at food number 5, and this one is going to make you question everything you thought you knew about food preservation. Honey should never be refrigerated, and in fact, honey is one of the few foods on Earth that never spoils when stored properly. Archaeologists have found pots of honey in ancient Egyptian tombs that are over 3,000 years old and still perfectly edible. Think about that. This miracle food has natural preservatives, including extremely low moisture content and acidic pH, that make it impossible for bacteria and microorganisms to survive. It literally preserves itself, yet people still put it in the refrigerator out of habit or misplaced concern. When you refrigerate honey, you accelerate crystallization, turning your smooth, golden, pourable honey into a hard, grainy, impossible-to-use brick. Some people think crystallized honey has gone bad, but crystallization is actually a natural process that has nothing to do with spoilage. It's just glucose separating from water. However, refrigeration makes this happen much faster and creates larger, grainier crystals that completely change the texture. Your honey becomes difficult to spread, impossible to pour, and requires heating to return to its liquid state, which if done improperly can destroy the beneficial enzymes and antioxidants that make honey such a health powerhouse. Raw honey contains enzymes, antioxidants, vitamins, and minerals that have anti-inflammatory, antibacterial, and healing properties. But excessive heat from trying to liquefy refrigerator-damaged honey destroys these benefits. The perfect storage for honey is in a sealed container at room temperature, preferably in a dark place, since light can degrade its quality over time. It will stay perfect indefinitely, maintaining its flavor, texture, and health benefits without any refrigeration whatsoever. So there you have it. 5 common foods that you need to liberate from your refrigerator immediately if you want maximum flavor, optimal nutrition, and to avoid potentially harmful chemical changes. Tomatoes, potatoes, bread, coffee, and honey are all suffering in your fridge right now. And the sad part is you probably thought you were doing the right thing. This is exactly why you need to subscribe to this channel, because I'm dedicated to exposing the truth about food storage, nutrition, and health that the mainstream sources either don't know or won't tell you. Hit that like button if this video opened your eyes, share it with your friends and family so they can stop making these mistakes, and drop a comment telling me what other food storage myths you want me to investigate next. Your kitchen, your health, and your taste buds will thank you. Now go rescue those foods from the cold, and I'll see you in the next video where we'll uncover even more shocking truths about the food we eat every day.